All right. Well, hey, welcome everybody. This is another episode of Tech Tip Tuesday. My name's Ken Close. I am a Healy World member here in the United States, engineer and Healy technical and technology lover, connoisseur for sure. We got the Healys going on everywhere around me. And I'm super happy to be joined by my co-host, Henry Pena. He is head of onboarding for Healy Corporate. Hey, Henry, welcome.
Hey Ken, thank you so much for the introduction and welcome everybody to Tech Tip Tuesday.
Awesome. Well, Jake is normally here with us, also co-hosting. He is on vacation, which is well deserved. I mean, we got to have that every now and then, right? So we'll give a big shout out to Jake for next time. We'll have him too. But hey, you got a couple of experts right here, ready to dive into the technology. Folks, if you haven't been to Tech Tip Tuesday before, well, where you been? First of all, but secondly, this is brand new, so welcome. I'm glad you're here. And let me just tell you a little bit about how it works. Tech Tip Tuesday is a creation that we put together to allow you guys to put your questions into the chat. We field them live on the call. This call is recorded. It's also transcribed and then produced for everybody to take a look at anytime and anywhere on YouTube. But what we talk about here, guys, is gosh, we talk about the apps, the technology, the theory, the science, I mean, we just do all kinds of deep dives into stuff and super fun. So your questions, there is not really a wrong question out there. What we can't talk about though is talking about prevention, treatment, diagnosis, or any medical types of conditions within the body. That's not why we're here. We're here to help you guys work with the technology as far as finding resources for how to, get some answers for things like that. We can point you in the right directions. Healy has tremendous database resources for helping you guys really dial in some things that are specific to you. All right. We do talk about certain things that are specific to you in regards to, of course, always listening to your body, always paying attention, and then being sure that you're utilizing things based on your intuitive understanding, right? But let's get into the science and get into the fun and start answering some questions. What do you think, Henry?
Absolutely, absolutely. Don't see any questions so far, but I think, maybe we can get started talking a little bit about the high wave, I think, since I feel like that's what everybody's talking about lately.
Gosh, the brand new stuff, right?
Hmm.
So you guys have probably seen some of the emails, some of the advertising stuff, this, that, and the other. Maybe you've at least seen a picture of the high wave, right? What is it? What is this? Well, it's kind of a thing that goes on your wrist. What is that? And then Healy clips into that. So certainly we can talk about that. Henry, have you been fielding any onboarding stuff around that?
So they haven't gotten many questions yet, but I'm also training our artificial intelligence, our virtual assistant Harmony, and we do get a lot of questions about the high wave there. I get to see all those questions every single day. A lot of people, what are the difference between the using the high wave and the coil versus using the cables? Some people ask about the different, like, the programs, the cell wave and mind wave programs. So usually those are the kind of questions that I'm getting regarding, what the programs are about. And also, again, one's like some of the differences between the coil, using the cables, using the high wave.
Yeah, yeah. So, and we'll definitely be opening that up here. I'm sure that you guys, as you get the systems in place and you start using it, it's always about there's conceptual questions, right? There's like, gosh, I heard about this new Mercedes Benz, man. Tell me more about the Mercedes. Well, there's a whole manufacturing thing, but then that one particular model and the aspects or the attributes to that one model. Again, this is where we're refining, or Healy's refining the way that it sends information into your body. It's giving options, such as having options in your vehicle, right? You got power steering, you got power brake, you got air conditioning, right? Well, now Healy's got all kinds of ways of sending the information to the body. We've got the microcurrent and the leads. Even that technology has a couple of applications. You've got the wristbands and you have the sticky pads, right? So couple of ways to apply it to the body. And then you've got the coil. So that's another magnetic infusion, but not just a single magnetic infusion, that's actually two specific magnetic waves simultaneously 180 degrees off from each other that build you like a bubble, right, around the device and within your body. So that's, now with the high wave, now we've got another way of sending the information into the body. And I really, we'll get more into that, but Toby's got a great question here. And I know that, because guys, Henry is one of our customer service specialists also. So he just has this extra cool job of international onboarding, right? So he's really well trained in that. So you guys are in the right spot for getting this question answered. And Toby's asking the questions. Well, what about someone who owns 3 Healys and lost all their login information, right? What do I do? Well, that's a big question. I actually just had someone in similar condition, and not so much lost all their login information, but there was a typo during registration. And so we weren't getting any of their information because the email was done wrong. And what do, right? Because you got to have that login credential. So Henry put a little information in there. Henry, you want to talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. So just take me a minute, Toby, to get you the reset link, but that's always going to be the first troubleshooting step, to try that reset link. I will provide you with additional instructions if you have trouble with that, but that's really always a first step. It really doesn't matter if you have one Healy or if you have multiple Healys, because technically they should all be under the same account. And it's important to keep in mind that all you really need to access every single one of our platforms, because I know you mentioned all their login usernames. You don't really need multiple usernames. As a matter of fact, you can log into every single one of our platforms by simply using your email address. That's another question we get often. People say, some of our members say, all right, I don't know my username, so how can I access it? You don't need to know your username. You just need to know your email address. So as long as you know what was the email address that you used when you first purchase your Healy, it doesn't matter, once again, if you bought one or bought multiple, as long as you know the email address, even if you don't know the password, you can use the reset link I'm going to send you, which is actually accessible right from the Healy shop. Like if you were to log in, it's going to ask you reset password. You don't remember your password? Well, you can reset it. So you can use that link, but I'm gonna go ahead and send it to you. And then once you do that, you're gonna want to go to the pink button. Once you reset your password, you should be getting an email to whatever email you use to log in. And then once you do all of that, you reset your password, you wanna make sure that you're clicking the icon on the Healy shop that it's for, because there's two ways to log in into the Healy shop. And one way is gonna show simply username, email address, and password. And there's gonna be a button, a pink button on the login screen of the Healy shop that's going to say sign in with Healy. That's where you want to go on. That you wanna press that pink button that's showing right there. And as a matter of fact, I can go ahead and just share my screen real quickly so I can show you what that would look like. So let me just do that real quick, and then we can do that. So hopefully I'm able to share my screen without any issues. Let's see.
Yeah,
Yep, here we
remember,
go.
guys, that as Henry's saying, the single sign-in, that email is essentially your number one credential, right? The email address. That's really important. You can reset everything else. The email has to be reset by customer service. Let's just say you did a typo, or let's just say you don't even remember the email you registered with. Now what do you do, right?
Mhm.
So you can go to the shop. The significant thing that Henry said there, it's not from your back office, it's from your shop page. This is what we do. Everything we do for password, for all that account stuff is from the shop page. And the reason is because not everybody is a member. Some people are customers, and everybody has a shop page. So you always go there. So go ahead, Henry. Yeah, show
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. And thank you, Ken. No, and that's absolutely right, because one of the things that people feel overwhelmed when this happens is like, okay, I don't have access to anything, so how can I even ask for help? You don't need a login in, you don't need login information. So in that case of that person, who owns 3 Healys, lost all their login data, they can approach this multiple ways. First, again, this is what the Healy page would look like originally as soon as you go in. You don't need any login, you don't need anything. This is the main page of Healy. In the case of the United States, us.healy.shop. Let's say you're trying to log in, you don't know your password, right? Your login credentials. You go right here on the top where it says login. That's gonna take you to the login screen. And then let's say, oh, I don't know my password. First, I would recommend try going here where it says sign in with Healy. And then in this screen right here, if you don't know your password, you can say forgot password. Then you put the email that you use to access your account normally, and then send the link. Once you get the link, you get the instructions, then you want to go back again to this same sign in with Healy option. You click here, you get the password, you start using your account. Let's say that doesn't work, even though it should. And it's important to always follow those steps, because we do find that a lot of the times we do provide the steps, but sometimes you don't get the email, or sometimes the email is in the junk folder, or it goes to spam or anything like that. So you do want to make sure once you press that link to reset the password, try to check your email, see if you get something, and then go back right here with a sign in with Healy and try to log in again. Let's assume that didn't work. Or let's assume it's somebody who's, those, like Ken said, they don't remember their email, or it's an email that they don't use anymore. It's an email that they don't have access to. Then the email reset, it's not going to do anything because you don't even have access to that email. So what do you do in that case? Well, in this case, Toby, what we would recommend is that you ask this other person that you know to reach out to us. And as Ken said, the easiest way to reach out to us is right here at the bottom right corner, chat with us. That's our virtual assistant Harmony. And that's, you can even ask for an agent. In this case, I would definitely recommend that Toby, you let that person know to ask for a member here, because it's going to need help from a live agent who will then contact the affected member to the new email address, and then they're going to be able to do the update of the email from the one that was no longer available to the new one. So regardless, whether it's a password issue, you don't remember the email address you used, or the email address that you used to use for Healy is no longer available, you have no longer access to it, you have a new one, always can be solved either from here with the password reset password link, or if you run into issues with that, simply reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to help you with anything by going right here at the bottom.
Yeah, I always recommend, guys, whether you have an account that you remember or you don't, going to the us.healy shop page, right? Going to that shop page. Now, we may have customers or people on here from all over the world. We don't know. Make sure you're doing it from your country of origin, wherever your account was created. Because if you create an account in Australia and then you're in the US shop, it won't be able to be helped very well. You got to go from your country of origin. So that's where you start, because the cool thing is, and folks, this has been added. The Harmony AI has been added. What, like, it's only I don't even think it's 90 days old, is it?
Yeah, no, it's only been, a few months, like a few months old. Like, I mean, I know being we've been with it for a little bit, but honestly, every single day we're adding more and more and more information. So the more you guys use it, the better it gets. Like at this point, it really can, like, sometimes, like I've seen members asking very, very complex questions, and I'm like, wow, like it really is crazy how like it really knows how to answer all of this.
That's great. Yeah, because the resources that the AI engine is using is basically everything from the FAQs, from the Academy. I mean, there's so much content out there, and it's using all these resources to pull together information and then logically answer the questions that you present. So it just gets better and better as it's being used, and then more resources. I think that, now we need to open up the Tech Tip Tuesday content to AI and let it scan through and manipulate all that content and go, and then see if it comes up with some answers of, well, Ken and Henry said. That'd be kind of fun if Harmony was saying, well, on this episode of Tech Tip Tuesday, they cover it very well.
It is,
Anyway.
it is, it is interesting because yes, you can definitely add like links and resources that it will gather and will actually tell you, okay, I'm gathering this information from here. And it's just very interesting the way it gathers information, and it's always pretty accurate. So it's really nice.
Yeah, so folks, this happens. This happens. Like some people I've noticed that they don't use their Healy for a while. They pull their Healy out, they charge it up. This is the step one, by the way, folks. If you have been on a Healy vacation and you're coming back and you're ready to get your Healy started again. So step one, no matter if it's been sitting for a month, 6 months, or years, plug it in and charge it. Just plug it in, charge it up, let it charge through its full cycle, and then start the usage that you want to do. And remember, if you haven't been using it for a couple of years, I guarantee you probably have the old incorrect apps. So we have to think about that. We have to remember that that app developers are required to stay current with the software platforms that the mobile devices are using. So every time, whether it's Android or iPhone, anytime they update their software, the apps have to be compatible with new software changes. And so they come up with new updates and things. And so even us who use our Healy on a regular basis, we need to make sure that we're current with the software, with the app itself, and then making sure that that our smart device is also with the current level of software within it. Every time that there's an update with the app, it's going to have a specific minimum operating system requirement. Okay, we're still at a pretty reasonable operating system requirement right now. I think iOS is like 11 and Android somewhere in that 11 area too. And even though iOS is up to version 18 now, I mean it's up there, but anyway, still compatible. So making sure you've got the proper apps. So the Healy 2 app, the pink app right here behind me, and the HealAdvisor Analyse 2. Those are the two main ones, right? And then also make sure, everybody, that you've got the HealAdvisor app, this one with the wavy lines. And if you don't know if you have the current version or not, simple way to figure it out. Go to your app store and open the app from the store, right? Whether it's your Apple or your Android, go to the app store, open it from there. Because if you go there and it just says open, okay, great. You don't have an update. But if you go there and it says update, that's kind of logically that there's an update. And you click on that and it will automatically update your device, your smart device. And then boom, you're ready to roll. Right. The next piece of that, let's just say now you open the Healy 2 app, and now you've got the new app, you've opened it up, you've connected your Healy to it, and the app says there's an update there. Okay. So make sure that you're clicking on the update there too, because any changes that were required and made for the synergy between the app and the smart device and the Healy are also within that app. So updates are good. I also always recommend when you guys are doing updates, and if the Healy app asks permission for something, I don't care what it is, say yes. Okay. Just say yes. If you say no, you're going to wind up having to go back and probably change a setting because it's going to need it for whatever the app's trying to achieve. I get this all the time. People are like, well, you load these apps and they ask for all these permissions to your camera, to your microphone, to your location, to whatever. And people say, no, 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 no. Okay. Well, I promise you, you're going to have a little bit of an issue down the road when you start fully using the app for what you want to do. Okay. Any other things you want to add to that?
Well, I think if anything will be the fact that I feel that when we do get that question, which is often, people say, oh, it's been a while since I've used my Healy and it looks like I cannot use the older apps anymore. Now there are new apps. There tends to be like this understanding that it's going to be difficult to do all this process of adding the new apps. When in reality, once you understand really what goes on and the fact that we do have 3 different apps, but really like the setup of all 3 apps will probably take you, as long as you know how to download the app from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, and you know how to put the email address and the password. As long as you know your email address and password, that's important too. You do need to know it. As long as you know it, I can tell you that the setup of the app, all 3 apps can be set up in less than 5 minutes. All 3 apps. Like, I'm not saying that each app will take you 5 minutes. I'm saying all 3 apps can take you less than 5 minutes. The Healy 2 app, which is the one that's known as the pink app, that one doesn't even require you to log in. So as long as you have a Healy device, all you have to do is open the app. It will ask you to connect the Healy device, which sometimes, you know, if you're using the app for the first time, it'll ask you to scan the QR code of the Healy, which is on the back of the Healy. But once you do that, it will really just take you to the app and it will show you all the programs that are connected to that Healy. And then that's it. And then for the other two apps, all you really need is to put email address and password, which is exact same because of that single sign-on process is exact same email and password in every platform, including Shop, including HealAdvisor Analyse 2 app, HealAdvisor app, and back office. Everything is going to be exactly the same. Also, same thing with the Help Center. So again, it really is a very straightforward process. But once again, if you ever have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Remember, our virtual assistant Harmony is actually available 24/7. So you can reach out to it whenever you want. Now, when it comes to our live agents or customer care team, they're available still 7 days a week, just 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, which is still, you know, pretty a lot of time available. But actually, we are actually offering support now kind of 24/7, to be honest, because now we're actually, we incorporated now our team in Europe, so and Asia. So now you can really reach out to us at any moment, and there will probably be somebody there who can help you with any questions you have. Just reach out to us. So I feel like right now, Ken, there is no excuse for anybody saying, oh, you know, I cannot reach out to Healy. Like, no, they're really right now it's like super easy and we're available pretty much 24/7.
Yeah, and I remember, you know, when we first getting started, the resources. Now this is, guys, this is over 5 years ago. The resources we had were much more limited. Just like any other startup company, you know, it's really tough to go with all the personnel and all the technical stuff right out of the chute. Plus, it's really hard to predict how the field will utilize this technology. And trust me, folks, you guys, the field has expanded the Healy horizon because of the things that you're doing. And it's incredible. And then the needs of the field dictate the trajectory of the answers from the company. So building this model, the customer support model, and of course with technology as the AI evolves and being able to use it, that's just been more automated. And as Henry said, you guys, you know, now the reason that we moved Tech Tip Tuesday to this time slot is so that we could involve all the other regions. And it just makes it a little bit more of a bridge there, time-wise, from the US to Europe. And then being able to get other folks on this call. So so you guys are determining what we do. I mean, I love that. Let's see. Do we have anything we need to answer? I think we're caught up on questions, and thank you for that question, Toby, by the way, because it's actually relevant to so many. I just actually recently had a new member who got a couple of new customers, and during that whole process, one of the emails had a typo in it. So one of the customers, when I go through how you set things up, and they're like, I didn't get that email. I didn't get any emails. And I was like, oh, okay, that should be a flag. Because whenever you purchase a Healy, you put in your credentials, you're going to get confirmation right away, right? There's three main emails you get: the confirmation, you get your login instruction, and you get also a shipping tracking email. Like all this is welcome to Healy. Here's welcome to your new account. So anyway, you should get that kind of stuff. And if you're not, that's a clue. So anytime you're working with anybody out there, folks, it doesn't matter if you're if this purchase is at 2 a.m. your time zone, it's still happening automatically. And so these emails go out right away with the purchase. No different than like I don't know, you purchase something else online, right? You get a verification email right away. All right. So if it's not happening, something probably went wrong within the sign up, and then we want to correct that right away. Okay. Um, kind of a quiet crowd, you guys.
Yeah.
How you been? I mean, anybody? You got any? I don't know, let's just say that you're daydreaming as to what can I do with Healy? You know, hey, put the question out there. What can you do with Healy? I might have already been experimenting with that, by the way, just to say.
Mm.
Um, every time Healy comes out with a new modality, such as the HighWave, I'm like, my engineering brain starts to build models around how am I going to make this guy even more interesting. So Carolina says, you want to talk about the differences of Healy coil electrodes and HighWave. Yeah, we kind of did a little bit of that last week, but we can talk about that um, because yeah, we're looking at different modalities. And so I want you guys to understand, so the way I speak from an engineering perspective, again, I'm an independent Healy World member. I am not corporate. My opinions and my information is my opinion and my experience, not from corporate's perspective. Okay. So I do say things sometimes that are based on my experience, not from a corporate perspective. That's not why I'm here. But when we talk about these different modalities, the the body itself, I always speak to the in regards to the body as a three-dimensional entity in space and time. It's hostage to environment. Okay, why? Because it's matter. Now, if we keep zooming in on this matter, we find a different story.
Mm.
But we can actually touch it, right? Here's the body. It's not like you're just waving your hands around in the air, as is the environment. But this body is three-dimensional space and time. So how do we speak to the body in three-dimensional space and time? And there are tangible ways. When I say tangible, this is when you're touching the body. So when we wear the wristbands or the electrodes, they're touching the body, yes? And so you've got some mechanical connection to the body. Um, Not the best analogy, but like an IV. If you're gonna have, if you're gonna put some kind of chemical topical on your skin versus you put it into the vein, right? Your body still absorbs it. But let's just say that now you've just taken the same chemical and just sprayed it in the air. Okay. It's all over the place and some of it lands on you. So that we're looking at three different levels of infusion or effect on the body, how tangible matter is speaking to the body. The spraying of something into the air, you got small particles that are atomized and they're just floating through the air, and some of them land on your skin. Okay. So when you spray the volume of material into the air, it's dispersing over a wider space. So the particles per space are small. We call that particles per million or particles per atmosphere. So particles per atmosphere are small. One particle lands on your skin out of billions. It's a 1 to 1 billion ratio. You follow me so far? A 1 to 1 billion. So that touches your skin. Then it's required for the skin to now absorb it into the interior of the body. Now that's another, what in electronics, we call it a ratio of loss. So the first initial spray of atomization into the air, that's the first ratio of loss. Then you have one particle touch your skin, that's the second ratio of loss. Then your body's ability to accept, believe, and surrender, that's the third ratio of loss. Reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to understand the way that information goes out into the world or out into the universe and how these bodies in three-dimensional space collect it because there's ratios of loss along the line. Another analogy is if you and I were talking and we didn't have this technology and you are in Australia and here I am in the United States and I'm like, hey, Henry, do you think he'd hear me just out in free space? The sound is still going omnidirectionally and it's going for endless, infinite space. But whether he can perceive it or not, that's another story. Okay. Now, if I had a super loud speaker and I said, hey, Henry, the particles of information in the atmosphere get bigger, but he's in Australia. He still may not hear me. That's a long ways away. So My point is there's a bit of loss between what the generator, me, the voice, and the receiver, Henry on the other side. So when we're looking at the way that Healy operates, you have the generator. This is the generator. All right. For this explanation, this is the generator. And then we have the receiver. This is the body. How are we getting information from the generator to the receiver? Step one, the electrodes and the wristbands or the sticky pad. So this is a very high um, amplitude of influence with a very small amount of loss. Why? Because it's a direct wire connection between the Healy and the body. The Healy, when it's sending that microcurrent out of these wires, very, very small, very negligible amount of loss in terms of signal. And then it goes to the wristbands. Again, very, very small amount of loss. Now, let's say we disconnect it. Boom, huge amounts of loss. Trying to get a microcurrent to go from this tab to this tab in free space, not happening. All right. We click it back to the body. Now the wristband is touching the skin. There's our first source of loss. First source of loss. Let's say the wristband's really loose and wobbly around and all over the skin. Not going to get good connection. Let's say the skin is super dry, or maybe has a whole bunch of lotion and potion and stuff on it. Again, there's a form of loss because you create a barrier between the inside of the electrode wristband and the surface of the skin. We don't want any barriers. So this is why with the electrodes that we moisten them. I get them wet or I get my skin wet, and then I put the wristband on. And I don't crank it down where I'm cutting off my circulation, but I crank it down to where I can't spin it. I can't freely rotate it on my wrist. That's important because now we're getting a good connection between the wristband and the skin. So we're minimizing our loss in signal. You follow me? This is why I'm speaking in that way. So that's a very high amplitude of influence. We have electron flow into the body. That electron, it's oscillated at the frequencies that Healy is generating, and we're getting them directly into the cells, into the body on a systemic or whole body influence. When it's from one wrist to the other, it's whole system. When we have a sticky pad from just one spot to another, that's acute. Okay, we're addressing maybe just a joint with the sticky pads, or just the head with the sticky pads, or with the wristbands, we're speaking to the whole body. That's systemic, the whole system. When we go to a coil, that changes things. We're now transmitting that same microcurrent, converting it into magnetic waves that go out into the air. When we have that conversion from electron flow to magnetic energy, there's a bit of a loss. And then when we transmit it out into the air, the distance between the transmitter, aka the Healy, and the receiver, aka your body, makes a big difference. The further away, the more the loss. Okay? That's why we have it right on our body. So we have minimalizing that loss. So the coil is another convenient way of transmitting into the body. Very convenient. You don't have to hook anything up. It's bam, go, grab it and go, right? Like fast food. It's fast microcurrent or fast energy. Okay, grab it and go. You're on your way. Coil is a great option, keeping the Healy next to your body. When it comes to the HighWave, now we're putting it on our body in one spot. Again, touching the skin. Okay, so we want that good connection right there. Again, if you've got lotions and potions and stuff on your skin, you know, we want the connection, the electrodes to be, there's electrodes, by the way, on that little piece of hardware, and they're touching your skin for a reason, so you can get good connection. If you were to put, I don't know, let's just say you wrapped your arm in duct tape and then you put that watch on there, or the HighWave on there, you're probably not going to get a good signal on the app. Right? It's not going to say you're getting a good signal. I haven't experimented with that yet, but that's just based on the way that the technology is designed. Besides, I don't think I'd put duct tape on my arm anyway, but I'm just saying, let's just go. I'm just giving you an analogy, right? So we want good connection. maybe, you know, in the summertime, people are using suntan lotions or oils or things like that. Remember, those can be insulators. When I mean they will down regulate the connection, either whether it be the wristband, the sticky pad, or the high wave. So we want to make sure, you know, we're clean. I don't know that you really have to moisten the high wave. Have you? I don't know. I don't think you really need to because of its, yeah,
You shouldn't have to, yeah, you really shouldn't have to do that.
no.
And remember, like one of the main differences between using microcurrent, because when we're talking about microcurrent, we're specifically talking about using the cables, and that's something that it's important to understand. When we're talking about the cables, we're talking about microcurrent, and microcurrent has special qualities to it. The supporting amino acid transport, protein synthesis, ATP production. Those are things that have been shown already for decades that are benefits that microcurrent can offer. You can only get microcurrent via the connection cables, which is why a lot of people are still a fan of the connection cables. Even before the high wave was a thing, people had the choice, okay, I can use maybe the connection cables with the wristbands or the adhesive electrodes, or I can use the coil. And sometimes people say, oh yes, the coil is more convenient as Ken said, but there are certain limitations to it regarding, for example, it's not really designed to be used with any of the local programs. What do I mean by local programs? Pain and stimulation programs, any program that ends with the word acute. And there's a few programs there that you're going to see that they do not say IMF on the top right corner. All of these programs that do not say IMF, which stands for Individualized Microcurrent Frequency programs, you'll find that those programs, when you click on it, it will tell you nothing about the coil and it will tell you nothing about the high wave. And this is because these programs, whenever you go into these programs that are local programs, the illustration that you see, it's always placed on the back or the neck with the adhesive electrodes, and it always tells you place the adhesive electrodes on the affected area. So that is one of the differences. If you're looking for local support, let's say you're experiencing any kind of physical pain on a specific part of the body, you will probably want to go with the cables because those are really the only ones that have local programs designed to place on a specific parts of the body. On the case of the Healy coil, as Ken said, it's for convenience. It's great for sleeping. If you don't want to have the cables while you're running the Healy, I mean, ideally you want to have the coil. For animals, is amazing too because once again, animals have fur. So if you want to use your Healy on your pet, you're probably going to run into trouble trying to place the adhesive electrodes or even the animal kit. Sometimes if your dog or cat or any other type of pet you have a lot of fur, you will not be able to use it. So that's where the Healy coil really comes into play because it addresses that bioenergetic field that addresses the full being. Because remember, every cell in no matter the type of organism has a certain voltage to it, every single cell. So when you put all of that collectively and then you end up with a body, regardless if it's a human body or any kind of body, they all have their own bioenergetic field. So when you use the coil, you are addressing that, but you're not really addressing things on the physical aspect directly, which that doesn't mean, remember, energetically speaking, matter, it's also energy. So you are addressing energy, but when we're talking about matter and physical matter, we have a medium that we're trying to match. And in this case, when you have a physical body, tangible body, when you use microcurrent, that energy is going to probably get to the body in a more effective way than if we're using something that is completely wireless and it has no, really, it's not as tangible as physical as the body, which in this case would be the bioenergetic field and those electromagnetic fields, like what is known as quantum potential frequencies from the Healy coil. And then ultimately, we have the high wave, which is the latest accessory from Healy. Very, very popular nowadays. I see, people ordering like crazy. What are we doing with the Healy HighWave? The method of application is going to be deeper. So it's going to reach deeper into the cell. Why? Because the technology it uses has what it's known as a carrier frequency. In this case, it's 5 megahertz. And then that will allow the frequencies that are being transmitted by the Healy to reach deeper into the cell, and it will be distributed evenly through the body, which is something that even when you use microcurrent with the wristbands, as Ken was explaining, the like kind of like that loss factor, the loss ratio in which the microcurrents are going to be transmitted, it's not really going to be distributed evenly throughout your whole body. Yes, even though they are systemic problems when you use microcurrent, there is a certain degree of loss as it travels through your body.
Mhm.
That's where the Healy HighWave comes into play, which is why a lot of people really, really find it very valuable, because they're really trying to achieve that harmonization of every single cell in the body in the most even way possible. So those are going to be the difference. Microcurrent, you have those additional benefits: ATP production, amino acid transport, protein synthesis. It's a more physical type of application. When we're talking about coil, it's about convenience. It's going to be less tangible. And ultimately, we have the Healy HighWave, which is going to have a more even type of distribution of the frequencies. And then because of that 5 megahertz carrier frequency, it will also reach deeper into the cell, which will, again, that voltage that every single cell has will be harmonized in a more evenly way. So those will probably be the main differences. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add there, Ken.
Well, you said, folks, Henry said a couple of key significant things there. And when it comes to the world of engineering, we influence a circuit or the purpose of a circuit in a couple of ways. Either it is through amplitude or repetition, right? And the way that we can increase repetition is by frequency. So we can send high amplitudes of information, high amplitudes of signal, like your microwave oven. Anybody have a microwave oven out there? When you put something in there, it's running a 2.4 gigahertz, that's a frequency signal in the box, but it's running it at like 1,000 watts. It's a lot of power. And when anything is obstructing that signal going in that box, when you obstruct a signal, when you create resistance, resistance causes heat. All right. And that's why things in the microwave heat up. It's because of the resistance of them. But what creates the resistance? It is water. It is the water. It is moisture. Water in your body is a resistive mechanism. I mean, also conductive, but it is the moisture within a content of a substance that resists a 2.4 gigahertz signal going through. So whatever food or item you have in the microwave, it gets hot because of its resistance. Put a I don't know, put a dry cracker in there or put a plain old paper plate in there and turn it on. I don't care how much power you're putting through it. It will not heat up because there's no moisture in there. Okay. So when we're talking about these frequencies, the microwave uses 2.4 gigahertz. Henry's talking about the high wave using 5 gigahertz or 5 megahertz. That's a much higher. It's a high frequency signal, and that high frequency signal, it kind of goes over the top of things and blankets them in a very more dynamic way, blankets your entire body instantaneously. So that megahertz signal is going to be essentially omnidirectional within the body as well as omnipresent all over the body. Um, the other significant thing that Henry said there is we know science has proven microcurrents effectiveness on the body for, I mean, since the early 1900s. Microcurrent's been used, and there's a lot of information out there and studies. That's why Healy uses it because it does increase ATP production. So he said it, and Ethel's like, Henry's talking really fast. I can't understand him. But that's just, that's just Henry's like, he's like got that voice. It goes. So anyway, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is like the energy in a cell, right? It's the mitochondrial fuel, and it increases cell energy. So microcurrent's been tested and shows to increase ATP production by like up to 500%. This is studies out there, guys. It's not my research, it's science research. And that's really significant because we're, like Henry said, we're charging up the cell membrane voltage. We're charging up these cells. And when we charge them up, they're not diseased. They're not in disorder. They're vibrant. They're capable. And so the other thing that microcurrent has a benefit for is amino acid transport. Amino acids are the building blocks for proteins. Building blocks. They're not the proteins, they're the building blocks, the substances that proteins are made from. And everything in your body, every action done in your body, from blinking your eyes to beating your heart, is done with a protein. Okay? Even a thought is done, the action of it, what it produces, the actions in the brain and the whole system, it's done with a protein. So microcurrent increases protein synthesis. It also increases amino acid transport. So, so those two are very well linked together. Amino acids and protein synthesis, they link together, and microcurrent increases the effectiveness of those modalities. And now, okay, so that's microcurrent. Well, what do we keep talking about frequencies for? Because the microcurrent is like this carrier system, like it's carrying it with like a pail of water. It's carrying that water through cell after cell after cell. So the microcurrent is the transport system to get it through the body. If a body is resistant, how do we create resistance? Well, in a body, we can create resistance by lack of water. Dehydration creates resistance, and then we don't get signal going through. Healy doesn't transmit 1,000 watts of power, right? It transmits small amounts of power so that the body cannot be alarmed. If it transmitted thousands of watts of power, the body would be alarmed because it would be too much, and it would then turn on your sympathetic nervous system or fight or flight, and now we're not healing. Now we're consuming energy instead of amplifying energy. So microcurrent, those very significant features in ATP production, amino acid transport, and protein synthesis, significant, but we're sending it in low amplitudes of power, so bodies can be resistant and can not get as much as you think. Now you have the ability to crank it up and give more microcurrent in the body, but still using a microcurrent carrier to get through the body. The HighWave is using a higher frequency carrier. It doesn't really necessarily have to it gets in the body, but it's a high frequency. These frequencies are designed to travel from point A to point B. And the significance of the frequency itself traveling from point A to point B, um, the bandwidth of the frequency determines what it can travel through, or how it can travel from point A to point. How is it traveling over the surface of the Earth using basically the ground effect of the Earth, or is it bouncing into the ionosphere from other influential forms of energy and coming back? Is it going through the cells? Is it going around the cells? Frequencies are the bandwidth of these frequencies determine how well it moves from point A to point B and what obstructions it can go through. All right, so these higher frequencies can go through anything. This is why Healy has moved up to that instead of the 1 megahertz to 5 megahertz. Now it can go through the body omnidirectionally and really make a bigger impact. But is it susceptible to loss? Yes, just like everything is. It's what's right for you will be only determined by you because you and your body are unique. This is why Healy picks very specific frequencies within a bandwidth of the program's purpose. Program has a purpose. There's hundreds of frequencies within that program, and it finds your resonance and tunes in and gives you just what you need. So Henry and I are doing the same program at the same time. We may not see the same frequencies on the app because we're different bodies. We're different needs. Okay. So hopefully that helps, guys. I did put a link in the chat there for the Healy Shop HighWave. If you want to go and see what that is, you can see pictures and you can see some content. I know that Toby was asking about what is it? What is it? Can we see something on the screen? So I did put a link in there. Click on that link. You can do it right now from the Zoom and it'll pop up another window and it'll show you the shop page. You can browse through that. You don't have to log in. It's right there. Okay. Let's see. So Dory's asking, the cell wave keeps coming up as top priority in my Blue app. Are there any similar programs on Healy or MagHealy? So great question. Every single program within every single group page has uniqueness to it. All right. There are frequencies in there. Some do cross over. Some do cross over. But now that you're doing these, now that HighWave has been added to the database for the analysis, it's just got a broader reach. And now what the programs that have been designed for HighWave are a little more, you know, they're different. For instance, like if you guys haven't seen the pages yet, we have cell wave and we have mind wave. You know what? We got time. I'm gonna just share my screen real quick here, you guys, and I'll show you because I've got my my mobile device on the call with us. Let me share the screen and I'll show you the pages. Why not? Right? Okay, so here we go. This is directly from the Pink app, the Healy 2 app. All right, this is directly from that. Let's go right to the app right there. And here is a mind wave. So take a look at the programs. This is mind wave. The definition of the group itself should give it away, right? We have the active attention. Well, what does that mean? Active attention. How many of you guys are distracted sometimes? Anybody? Well, probably none of our audience. You guys are so focused, like it's crazy, right? But sometimes people may be distracted. Okay, well, guess what? You can put the HighWave on anybody, well, on another person, and run it from your app, and they're wearing the HighWave. Let's just say you're in a conversation. Now, I don't recommend doing this because it'll be really obvious, but let's just pretend that you're on a date and somebody's over there on their phone not paying attention to you. Right? Now that would be rude, wouldn't it? Okay. So let's put the HighWave on them and then activate this active attention program and then get their attention, right? That's just a weird example, but I'm just saying this is how you can increase attention, right? Distractions move us all over the board. So this program here is for that. What about creativity? What do you think that's all about? I don't know. Let's just say you're trying to come up with a solution to something. All right. Run this program. Cognitive ability. We have presence. We have recreation. We have relaxed awareness. I mean, use your intuition as to what these mean, because that's what they mean. Right? Cognitive ability. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's just more smarts. All right. All right, so let's take a look at that was the mind wave. Look at the cell wave. All right, purity, cell vitalization, cell care. This is the tangible body, right? We're talking about the mind, and then now we're back to the body. Okay, so these are some really cool programs designed for that. So now, if they are coming up on your analysis, there's relativity there. Why? Because these are new that do a different thing that wasn't there before. You didn't have access to that. When you're doing an analysis on all Healy programs, you had a bandwidth of access. Now there's that bandwidth is expanded a little bit. So certainly they're going to come up. Let's just say you've been in a very stressful environment for a minute, distracted, and the mind wave program comes up around right there, active attention. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Anything you want to add, Henry? Comments on this?
Well, I think beyond that, it's important to understand, first of all, what you said about every program has its own uniqueness to it. And it's important to understand that the names that we give to the programs are ultimately just a translation. We cannot really accurately say what you can expect from something that is purely energetic, which is the frequency itself. Like all we can really do is give it a conceptual meaning, a word or a number, and then trust that that will translate effectively in the terms of frequencies, right? So I always, as Ken said, I always encourage everyone to use their intuition and go by that, because regardless of what programs you use, remember that these programs will be adjusting themselves based on whatever it is that you need. Now, in the case of Doris' question regarding similar programs on Healy and MagHealy, we honestly cannot say, because again, they are all unique. They all have their own sets of frequencies. So we cannot really say that one program may be similar to this one. That's why, every program is different. But one of the reasons why maybe coming up in the Blue App a lot is maybe because you're thinking about it a lot. That's something that has happened to me before. And I know Jake happened, like, as soon as these programs were launched, that I know Jake had his head all over these programs waiting for it to come out. It's like, oh, I wonder when they're gonna come out. As soon as they come out, that was basically the top result that came up on his analysis. So that can happen too. So my recommendation would be not to get very worked up about it, being like, okay, this is showing up at the very top. If it's something you don't really have access to, because here's the thing, you can always vibrate it. You can still vibrate some of the results that you get from all Healy programs, and you can still get that positive vibrational information, which ultimately is not going to be as tangible and maybe even as efficient or effective as running something through the Healy 2 app. It's purely going to be informational, which still it's important. I mean, information is the most fundamental property of existence. So, like, I mean, in the very core, everything is information. But what I need you to understand is that even if you get the top result, self wave or mind wave, you don't need to go and choose that one in particular and say, okay, like, what do I do now that this is at the top and I cannot run it? That is okay. The reason why we give you 5 different results is because we want to give you the option to play around a little bit with your intuition. You don't need to go with the top result if it's something you currently don't have access to. Again, you're welcome to vibrate it, but if you don't have access to it on the Healy 2 app, that is okay. Maybe there's something else on that list of top 5 results that resonate with you and you may want to run it. But to be honest, we don't really have a way to say, okay, this program may be similar to this one. Ultimately, maybe you can use, at that point, I would recommend using your intuition. Take a look at those programs that can show it, for example, and see if there are programs there that sound similar based on the name with some of the programs that you already have on some of the other program groups that you already own. And that may be a way for you to kind of make that also mind-body connection and say, all right, this program on this group, on the cell wave or mind wave, say these words that kind of mean this to me. I wonder if I can find other programs that mean something similarly, but they may have a different name and they may be from a different program group. I would play around like that, because ultimately Healy really comes down to intuition. It's a matter of what is your body and your mind telling you.
I love that. And I think we really need to pay attention to our intuition. Now, so, maybe some folks may not really be that. I mean, maybe they just like, I don't have an intuition, but you do. When you see something, you feel a liking to it or a disliking to it, or there's something, it's this immediate thing, and you say, I don't have any intuition. Well, yeah, if you have an immediate liking to something and you have no reason for it, you have no data, you have no experience, you have no background, you have no memory of it. Why did you like it? Where'd that come from? Right? So this is the intuition part of us that we need to pay attention to. So we've come to the end of our hour. There's one last question. Can you run Healy along with MagHealy at the same time? And absolutely. So here's the cool thing about Healy, guys. They're not making something that doesn't work with the other things. No, everything is compatible. Everything is within the community of the frequency transmission and receiving modality. Our body is the receiver. Healy is the bridge, and then sending the information. So, as Henry was saying, there are things that are within these programs that are useful. When you do an analysis, all of it's useful, right? Use your own insight to say, which do I feel is most useful? Or just blanketly, like I used to work with a lot of trainers and such, and we would just listen to instruction. Here's the instruction. Take it at face value, without analysis, without question, and then run it, because it will look for your resonant frequencies. Healy cannot create something or give you something that you don't need. It can't, because it's not resonant with you. So, all right, guys. Thank you all for being here. If you want to save the chat, make sure up at the top of the chat window, you click on those three little dots up there. It's at the very top where it says Healy Tech Tip Tuesday. There's three little dots next to it. Click on those. It'll give you an option to save chat at the end of our call if you're on your laptop or PC. It will have a message when we get off the call here. Just wait for a second, and there'll be a message that you can save the chat. The links are in there, all the content that's there that we chatted about, all the questions. Also, this recording will be available here within the next couple of days on the YouTube page. And by the way, folks, coming up next week is the Healy Frequencies and Friends. We will not be having Tech Tip Tuesday. So in light of the Frequencies and Friends, so please join everybody, join us, join corporate on Frequencies and Friends. We will be talking about, I'm sure Jake will talk about Tech Tip Tuesday and its new time to broadcast that to a bigger audience. If this was useful to you guys, please share it with others, invite them to come, and let's have a party. How about that? All right, you guys. Thank you, Henry. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Ken. Thank you so much for having me today here, and thank you everybody who came to Tech Tip Tuesday today. It was a pleasure having you today.
Have an amazing day, everybody. Click that little three dots, save the chat. See you later.